The real goal for today is to try to get through this without crying, because every time I talk about it, I start crying because of how frustrating this period was and how upsetting it was. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is not beauty again. I'm still trying to decide what kind of channel I'm going to be doing, just because I love doing all these story times and like what McDonald's employees don't want you to know, but I also love doing beauty things. So I'm still trying to figure all that out, just like my schedule that I don't have yet. But good news, we got our own place finally, so soon all of this will be changing. It'll be a little more open, a little more bright. It won't be all of smushed everywhere. It won't be smushing me everywhere. Yes, the fan is on because I don't feel good today. I might seem a little off. That's because I am. My insomnia has been kicking my and I'm really dehydrated because it's really hot and I don't feel good, and I don't want to be sweating if I'm dehydrated and don't feel good already, so the fan is going to be on. Before we jump in, I just wanted to say that I am not going to give any names of the people that I'm going to mention. I'm not trying to expose them. I just like to rant, and I would like to be able to talk about this soon without getting really upset and emotional. But we'll have to see how that works. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So I'm gonna give the little backstory. My husband and I were dating, like when this all happened, we were just dating. We were actually like just got together, but we were already so close and our relationship was already so strong because we were best friends for years before we started dating. So we already knew everything about each other. We knew each other's quirks. We all knew that. So we decided to move in with one of my husband's like family friends. She's known him since he was born. Like, he was his mom's best friend. And they were really close. They called each other brother and sister because of how close they were. We're gonna call her Jessica. Jessica! Now, before I get started into like the crazy psycho stuff, I just wanted to put out there that when we first started living there, she was great. Everything was great. We were all getting along. I couldn't ask for a better situation that I was in, and it wasn't really like a situation at the time. It was more of a blessing. Before we moved in, we were kind of staying there, but we weren't fully moved in yet. Like, she had like a guest bedroom set up, and the bed was already there, so we were staying in the bed. There's a TV in there, so we were using the TV. We had our PlayStation, we had some clothes, so we were just kind of moving back and forth between our house and hers until we fully moved in. And we did that for maybe it was just a couple weeks. It wasn't too long, and then we finally moved all of our stuff in, but we moved into a separate bedroom because it was 4 bedrooms, so we moved into the bigger bedroom for the 2 of us and all of our stuff. Now, the original agreement with Jessica was that she said she was going to pay for all the groceries so we wouldn't have to worry about this. Now, mind you, at the time, since we were just graduating high school, we both had part-time jobs and we weren't making a lot of money because they weren't paying a lot. Like, someone going to high school, it was a lot of money for a part-time job, but being on our own, graduating from high school, it wasn't. So she said, she was like, don't worry about the groceries, I'll take care of them. I'll let you know when I'm going, that way if you needed anything, then I can grab it for you. But then, of course, like, if we needed like toothpaste or contact solution or something like that, we would go and get it. It's like kind of like the thing like that. And she said, she was like, well, I don't know what I want to charge you guys for rent yet, but just move in and we'll kind of figure it out how, like, as it goes. We were like, okay, cool. And we really appreciated that she was like buying the groceries and everything and being like helping us a little bit, since we literally just went from graduating high school to moving out. We really appreciated that. The first couple months were fantastic. Like, we got along great. I got really sick one time and she helped take care of me. We were doing like the roommate family dinners and stuff like that. We were always in the living room hanging out, like doing movie night, hanging out with her dogs. It was great. Like, we couldn't have asked for, like I said, like a better situation. And then things started to take a turn. I do realize that like saying this, it might not seem like, none of this might not seem like a big deal, but added on and added up and just piling everything on top of each other, it kind of broke us down to where this wasn't a great situation anymore. This was a terrible situation, and it was terrible for my boyfriend and I's relationship, and it was completely toxic. I'm probably gonna have this labeled as like my psycho roommate part 1, just because since it was such a difficult time, a lot of it's a blur, and since it was quite a few years ago, not quite a few, but it was like 2-3 years ago is like the time span of all of this. I don't remember literally every single thing that happened, but it like scarred me because I've never encountered anything like this before. So I'm gonna leave this open in case I want to do a part 2, like I think of things later, but this is just going to be some of the things that I remember at this moment. So let's start with rent. Now, at first, rent wasn't bad at all. I think she decided, it was the month we moved in, like I think it was like 2 weeks we were living there for free. We didn't really pay anything to live there. And then she was like, okay, so let's do $300 a month, which is perfect. And we were going to split it since we had part-time jobs and since we were sharing the same room. And she knew that since our payment was so small from our jobs, she said that we can split it up and pay gradually throughout the month, just as long as we had it paid. We're like, perfect, that works out perfectly. So that's what we did, and that was great. It worked out fine. And then it kind of changed, and then she all of a sudden it was, oh no, it's $300 per person. So we're like, okay, all right. Like, it was her house, so we couldn't really argue that. It was just kind of like it sucked because we couldn't afford that, plus our gas, plus like any other necessities we need and things like that. So we kind of started panicking a little bit, but we were making it work. We were given our payments, and we got everything paid in that 1 month span. So it wasn't too bad. We were like, okay, we can do this. We just have to be really lenient with our money. We can't go spending it all the time like we did in high school. And it was like that for quite a while. Mind you, we weren't there for too long. We moved in June of 2016 and moved out October of 2016. So we went there too long, but it was like that for a couple months. And then just like all these little things started happening. Like, she would get angry over something extremely, extremely small, and we'd be like, I'm really sorry. Like it's some of the stuff, we're like, I'm really sorry, I won't do it again. But some of the stuff there was no need to be angry about, and we were just kind of like, okay, like we weren't gonna argue with her, so we're like, our bad. Small things, like, I keep saying like, but I'm trying to figure out how to explain this with the memory I do have of it. But there was one time I remember, because she was really, really angry with me. We keep our bedroom doors closed just for the privacy of our room, and we did have a lot of stuff in there, so like we didn't have place for everything, but it wasn't too bad. It was mainly our clothes, because I think we had 2 dressers, but it was all filled with clothes, so we had like dirty clothes in a pile. So that's why we kept our doors closed, and that way her dogs didn't go into the room and take anything, because her dog was still kind of like in puppy mode. Like, he was a couple years old, but he was still in like that puppy mode. He was a pit. And same thing with our bathroom. We kept our bathroom closed. And one day, everyone was gone. Jessica was at work. My boyfriend and I were at work, and we both kind of came home at the same time. And we came in, and there was pads shredded all over the living room. All over. Mind you, I don't wear pads. Surprise, TMI, but here we are. This is a very important fact. And then so I texted her, and I was like, hey, just by the way, the dog ate some pads, or like tore them up. I don't know if he probably ate some of it, but tore it up, but I cleaned it up, so don't worry about it. And she was like, okay, thank you. Like, and that was it. And then she came home pissed, wouldn't talk to any of us, and we were like, what? And she was like, you need to start cleaning your bathroom and picking up after yourself and closing the door because my dog ate a pad. And I was like, It wasn't my, I don't wear pads. And she goes, well, it wasn't mine. And I was like, how would you know? Because I don't wear pads and I'm the one that cleaned it all up. And she kept trying to put it on me. And then I took the trash bag with all the stuff in it out of the trash, because I put it like in a separate like Walmart bag and tied it. And I took it out, opened it, and I showed her the wrapper. I was like, these are yours. I don't wear pads. This is yours. And then she was still, backtrack. She was, when she was getting, like, saying it was mine and it was my fault and everything, she was like, every time my dog eats something, you have to pay me $20. Sometimes maybe $40, depending on what it is. And I was like, I'm not paying you $20 if your dog eats something. It's a dog. Think this is going to happen. Dogs are going to eat things they are not supposed to be eating. Like a pad. If you leave your bathroom door open, which is why I close mine, these things will happen. And it was just small things like that that kept building up. She was the type to where if she was mad at either me or my boyfriend, she was the immature person that would not talk, would completely ignore their existence. And even if she was just pissed at me, she wouldn't talk to my boyfriend. If she was pissed at my boyfriend, she wouldn't talk to me either. We were a joint thing, and it was so, like, the tension just kept rising and rising with tiny little things going on. And you could feel it. Like, whenever she was pissed, you could just feel the tension. And that's not a good place to live at. That is not healthy for anyone. So a couple times I was able to kind of like break the ice. Like if I was in the kitchen and she was in the kitchen, I would say something and then she would like to kind of like communicate a little bit, and she would kind of do it too, but then you can tell the tension release just a little bit, and then we would talk a little bit more and then we would be fine. That's normally how it went. But there was this one time I got ready and everything, went to work. Jessica didn't work that day, and I guess she was having some friends over that I didn't know about. And that bathroom I typically kept really, really clean because it wasn't a joint bathroom to our bedroom. It was like the guest bathroom that when you had people over, like anyone in the bathroom or anyone in the living room or kitchen, they could use that bathroom. It was like a bathroom like that. So I kept it clean because one of us, like either of us, could always have people over so that way they can use it and it wasn't disgusting. And one day, after I showered and everything and I did my makeup and got ready, I went into the bedroom and kind of got sidetracked, and I left my pair of clothes in there from when I showered, and I left like a little bit of makeup on the counter. Like I think it was like my foundation and a brush or something like that. And I was like, I had full attention on going back into the bathroom and picking all of it up. But, you know, things happen. Like I went in there, I got sidetracked, I completely spaced, and I went to work. Yeah, whatever. And then her friends came over, and then I get a text while I'm at work. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me? And I was like, what? And she was like, you would always leave that bathroom so dirty. And she just started cussing me out and everything. And I was like, wait, what? And she was like, you left your makeup everywhere, there's clothes everywhere. And I was like, I completely forgot to pick up my one pair of clothes and like the two things of makeup on the counter. I was like, I didn't say it like that, but I was like, I'm really sorry. I was like, I completely spaced doing it. I was like, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. Like, these things happen. And she was just completely pissed. She was beyond angry. And when I got home, she did the same thing, not talking to me, not talking to my boyfriend, just completely ignoring us. And my boyfriend and I like came outside like in the living room to kind of fix the tension a little bit, and we were talking and we tried talking to her, but she would completely ignore. She just stood there, continued doing the dishes and everything, and and she has, when she's ignoring you, she gets that face to make sure that you know that she's ignoring you. Like she did that type of face, but she wouldn't acknowledge us. She just kept going, and we're like, all right, whatever. And this happens so often to where we never went in the living room anymore. We basically hid ourselves in our bedroom and just did our thing in our bedroom because we didn't want to deal with all of that. And there was another time where I think this was like a couple days later, where like tension was still going. Like this would go for days. She would keep up for days. And I was like, I don't want to live in a place where I'm constantly stepping on eggshells. And the three of us were in a group chat, and Logan was at work, my husband, or my boyfriend at the time. He was at work. I was at home. Jessica was at work, and she texted the group chat, and she was like, what are you guys doing? And I was like, this is the first time she's talked to us in weeks and days. I was like, I'm just at home. And she goes, great, the kitchen needs to be cleaned. Okay. That's literally all I said. I was just, okay. My thing with this, first of all, she could have gone about that completely differently. She could have been like, hey, kitchen hasn't been cleaned, do you mind cleaning the kitchen? Sure, I'll clean it, that's fine. But it's the way she said it. And she was saying that we always wreck the kitchen. It was always a mess because of us, because we're always using it. And I was like, mind you, this is another part to the next part. We hardly ever use the kitchen anymore. So any mess that was there wasn't from us. And I went in there and the kitchen was completely spotless. There was nothing there to clean. So I just wiped down the counters, I swept, I mopped. I was like, all right, whatever. I'm not dealing with it. You couldn't even tell that I cleaned it because it was already so clean. And that was just a short little thing. That was just another example where it's like really, like, come on now. But the thing about the kitchen, which is why I said I'll talk about it next. Whenever she would go to the grocery store when we first moved in, she'd be like, hey, I'm going to the store, do you guys need anything? Like, yeah, sure, this. She'd be like, okay, cool. And then after a couple months, she just stopped asking. And I know you guys are like, well, why can't you go get your own stuff? And I was like, because when we started, I'll get into that. I'll get into that. And she stopped asking. And so she would come home and I was like, oh, like, just talking to her, I was like, oh, I wish I would have known you were going. I would have asked you to grab a couple of things for me. And she's like, well, I'm not the only one that can buy groceries around here. And I was like, that was kind of one of our agreement things, to where like when we moved in, you were like, oh, don't worry about groceries, I got that, I will handle the groceries. And we're like, okay, cool. That was something that was discussed when we moved in. And that kind of ticked us off, and it was, we didn't have money to go get our own groceries. We didn't not have the money. We only had the money to get like little necessities here and there, like toothpaste, deodorant. We only had money to do that every once in a while. But it actually got to the point where she was hardly ever going at all. So there was never any food in the house. Since we didn't have the money to go out and buy our own groceries or anything like that, we couldn't eat. We couldn't eat anything. I lost a lot of weight. And so with our rent being like that, it started getting really difficult because at my job, things started slowing down. No one had as many hours as they did. And so we had less money. We had to save up money for, of course, rent. We had to save up money for gas. We had to save up money for necessities. And it became so difficult to do that with the amount of money we were paying for a bedroom. And mind you, okay, let me kind of go into detail about this payment thing. Her rent was about $1,200 a month, like everything, that's like including utilities. We were paying half of that. And that is a lot for us to be paying for, and for us only having a part-time job. It was a lot. And especially since we didn't even have money for gas. Since we just graduated, I got a bunch of checks from like friends, family for like graduation money for like college and stuff, and I was saving. I didn't deposit any of those. I was saving them for when I started college, but it got to the point where we had to deposit all of those and use all of them for gas, for food, for groceries, and some of the stuff we actually had to use for rent. And I was really upset about that because I've always wanted to go to college. I'm not going to college now, I'm going to school, but I always wanted to go to college or do something after high school, and that money was supposed to help me with that. But it couldn't, because we had to pay for all of this stuff that is a necessity. And we can't move back in with our parents because my parents and I and my brother get better along when we're not living together. And my boyfriend's parents offered for us to move in, but I have 2 cats that I've had for a very long time and I love dearly that I could not, but they don't want cats, so I could not just give them to someone to watch. Like I couldn't bring myself to do that, because one of them I've had since that she's about 16 now. I've had her that long. Like they're my heart. Like I couldn't do it. So we were kind of stuck there. And they were helping us pay for things, and my dad was helping us pay for things because of the fact of us now paying $300 each. I know now like that's like a kind of like the normal price range is between like $400 and like $1,000 for rent. In this situation it wasn't, so it sucked. And whenever we would, like since she's not buying groceries anymore, whenever we would go out and get something small to eat, or I needed clothes because I'm losing weight or gaining weight, we had to hide it from her. Otherwise she'd be like, well, this is why you guys can't afford anything. And I was like, we can't afford anything anyways, but this is a necessity because I don't have pants that fit. I don't have work pants that fit. I am getting skinnier and skinnier because we don't have food here to eat, since all of a sudden you stopped doing groceries, even though that was a part of our agreement. It got really bad. It was really, really toxic. Now this next part I feel really bad about doing, but we ended up bringing some of our friends in to move in because they were looking for a place. We're gonna call them Austin and Tyler. So they moved in and everything was good there for a while. I think they were doing like $300, $350 each, just like us. And I was kind of sitting there and I was like they were sharing the same room too. Like, let me add that in there. They were sharing the same room. They weren't using separate rooms because her 4th bedroom was like a storage room, so they were sharing the same room. But again, we're both paying $600. And I was like, that's literally the whole bill. That is the whole rent bill. And like, of course, like it's like $1,200 and some change. So she had the and some change just to pay. And I was like, we are literally paying the whole rent bill. And that is not fair. Like, and so we started doing the math. And like, we kind of split it up how it was supposed to be. And it was like $200 less than what we were paying. And if that were the case, we would be so much better with where we were at financial wise. But she didn't want to do that. And we did the math and we're like, this isn't fair. Especially since Logan and I were her family, her friend. It wasn't fair for her to do that to us, knowing our situation with work and everything like that. But she obviously didn't care. She was obviously very greedy. And she kind of started doing the same thing to our friends when they moved in as she was to us. Like, oh, her dog ate up some, okay, they were really huge drinkers at the time, so they like puked in the backyard and stuff like that. So the dog nastily, I don't know if that's a word, but they like licked up like puke or whatever, and then it was on the floor outside, and she got so pissed. She was like, you owe me $40. And he's like, dogs are gonna do that. He was like, I tried cleaning up what I could, so she must have just been licking up the rocks, like the extra that I missed. That's going to happen. It's a dog. It is a dog. Things happen. People get sick at parties. People puke. It's going to happen. And she was doing, like, they started realizing, like, they were like, oh no, it can't be that bad. And they moved in and they're like, oh, no, this is pretty bad. This is really bad. I know, like, you guys watching it, you're probably like, that's not bad at all. Like, what are you complaining about? You're a baby. You're over dramatic. I was like, no, like, anyone that we were really good friends with at the time, our family, they ended up resenting her. Even my boyfriend's mom, who was her best friend, ended up resenting her. There was one day where Jessica, Logan, and I weren't talking. Like, of course, Logan and I were, but we weren't talking to Jessica because she was doing her immature, I'm ignoring you thing. And she texted us while we were out, and she was like, when you get home, we need to talk. We're like, okay, she's gonna kick us out, or like, whatever, like. At this point, we were kind of already looking for another place with our 2 friends that were there because of how bad of the situation is. We sit down on the couch when we get home, and Austin and Tyler are there sitting next to us. And at first, we were just talking. And then like I kind of sat there because at the time I tried not to make things worse. I tried keeping really quiet. I didn't speak up for myself still, and I didn't like confrontation like that. So I was just kind of sitting there on the couch and they were going back and forth. Then Jessica blamed everything on me. She was screaming at Logan, pointing at me. She's like, you changed, you're not the same ever since you started dating her. It is all her fault, we don't get along anymore. And then that's when I was like, wait, hold the up. And then she looked at me, she goes, oh, now you want to butt in? Now you want to talk? And I was like, yeah, I do, because this is And then in that moment, when I started saying that, Austin and Tyler looked at each other, got up off the couch, and walked out the front door. It was actually pretty funny. I kind of laughed to myself, and I do feel bad for, like, I don't like doing that. I kind of wish Jessica was like, okay, let's go somewhere else and talk and figure this out. But she's immature, so that didn't happen. So we were all sitting there screaming at each other. And she was like, okay, well, I think it's best if I'm gonna give you guys like a month to move out. And we were like, okay, perfect, fine, we're already looking for another place. And then it kind of started getting a little deep, and I don't remember exactly what was said, but right after that, she was kind of like, okay, like everyone was calm. And she was like, let's write it out. You guys can stay. Things will just have to be worked on. And I'm over here like your attitude, huh? But I kept my mouth shut. And I was like, okay. And we came to an agreement. And that was it. And then Logan and I left to his parents' house, and then Austin and Tyler came back in and went in their room, and they went and took a nap. And then we talked about it later, and we were laughing, and they were all like, dude, as soon as you were like, yeah, I'm gonna say something because this is bullshit, they were like, oh, and then got right up. It was pretty funny. We were kind of making light in this situation. And the next couple days were good. They were fine. Like, you could still felt awkward. There was still that tension there, but like, especially since she blamed me for all the problems. And she was like, how she was saying, she was like, we've never had all these problems before until you started dating her. And that kind of got me, because I've never had something like that blamed on me. And ever since Logan and I started dating, we've always had people like, oh, you're so good for him, you've changed him but for the better, he's a completely different person, but he's so, like, you were so good for him though, like, he's growing, he's maturing. It was like that kind of change, not like the change she was making it out to be. And I just felt bad because I was like, she was making me feel like this whole thing was my fault, even though deep down I knew it wasn't, but she was putting the blame all on me. But wait, it goes downhill again. Jessica got Logan a job at her work because he got fired from his job because he got sick, and his boss thought he was faking it. So his boss stopped by his old house and saw that his truck wasn't there. It was like, you're not even home. And then he was like, I moved, I don't live at home. And so whatever, he got fired. So Jessica got him a job at her work, and for a couple days it was fine, like 2 days. And then Jessica just started doing stuff to purposely antagonize Logan and to make him angry and to kind of make the boss not like him, and was picking on him. And like, Logan's a really jokey type of person, and it's sometimes it's difficult to tell when he's joking, but most of the time you can tell. And Jessica knows that. Jessica's known him his whole life. So she starts causing problems at the workplace. Logan is getting pissed off because she's making him out to be this person that he's not, and making him seem like he's this terrible person. And so that got really bad. They get in a screaming match in the middle of work. And so he goes home, and then the owner is like, maybe it's best you don't work here. So again, he loses another job. Sorry, that shade, it's a curtain. It's a curtain. So he's out of a job again. And then, good thing he found another job, so we were good there. Still really tight on money. And then an incident came up Another money issue. Power got shut off. All of a sudden, Jessica was home, I was home, the power got shut off. And I came out, and she was over here like bawling, and I'm like, what? She's like, the power got shut off because I couldn't pay the bill, and I'm sitting over here, I'm like, where's all of our money going? Because what we're paying is half of the rent and utilities. Like, where is our money going? Because she was like maybe paying everything by like the skin of her teeth before we moved in, but she was still paying everything. And now, even with the extra $600 that she has, everything is getting turned off. And I'm like, what? Where's our $1,000 worth of money that we are giving you? It was just really sketch. Like, I'm trying to comfort her just because she's crying, and I'm like, I don't want to yell at her if she's crying, even though I should have. But we got all that taken care of and everything. But that kind of got all of us thinking, like, where is our money going if it isn't going towards our bills? Because that's where it's supposed to be going. Things just weren't adding up. And this also adds up to, like, every time she wants to pick a fight, she was like, you haven't paid me anything. There's months where you still owe me money. Where's all my money? You don't pay rent. And I was like, if we don't pay rent, then where's our thousands and thousands of dollars that we're giving you? Where's the money? Where's our money going? Because we pay you literally every month. It might not be all at once like we agreed, but we're paying you every month. And she's like, well, you're late on some stuff. And I was like, you mean this month? The stuff I haven't paid yet? It was like things like that. It was just, so maybe it's not psycho roommate, it's more of crazy, bitchy roommate, but still. And another time that kind of was like, all right, like 2 seconds away from being like, screw this, we're leaving. I'm at work. There's like a week or two where I was like only working 12 hours that week because of they were really busy with, I don't know, I just was working 12 hours that week, so my paycheck wasn't a lot. And so I told her I was like, I'm going to be short this month's rent because of the pay, but I will pay you that, I promise you that. I did pay her everything eventually, but I got a text during work, and she's kind of like, hey, just like, she was kind of nice about it. She's like, hey, just checking in on the so-and-so amount of money that you owe me for last month. And I was like, yeah, I'll pay it. And I was like, I get paid tomorrow, so I'll give you the money tomorrow. And for whatever reason, she all of a sudden want the next month's full rent. She's like, hey, well, you still owe me next month's. And I was like, I understand that, but it's split up. And she's like, no, she's like, why don't you just pay all of it in one paycheck? And I was like, because if I did that, I wouldn't have any money for gas, any money for necessities that I need, any money for food. I would not have the money. I would have literally $20 to my name if I did that. And she kind of just went silent. But so I paid her that whatever amount of money. And then right after that, me, Logan, Austin, and Tyler come home. And there's like a note taped on the fridge. Like, it's like a typed out note, and it's a contract. She wrote her own contract saying, and it literally says on there how much each of us should be paying, and then it says right next to it how much we are going to pay her. And there was like, it wasn't too bad, like it was like a $100 difference. I can't remember which one. And I texted, and I was like, I'm not signing that. I was like, we're leaving soon anyways. I was like, I'm not signing that. And there was like 4 slots for all 4 of us to sign. And it just sat there for days. And then we get text, we're like, hey, reminder to sign the contract. And I'm like, oh, and in the contract, it said that now we have to pay first of the month every single month. And that kind of screwed Logan and I, because we already had an agreement since we had part-time jobs. Couldn't get a full-time job. It was actually really hard to get a full-time job. That's another thing I just want to add in there. Like, we've looked, but it was actually really hard to find one. But that was our agreement since we had part-time jobs, was that we were going to pay it gradually throughout the month until it's paid off. She's like, nope, you're paying me the first of the month now. You're going to pay it all up front. And I was like, okay, I just have a question. Like, I was extremely nice about it. I was like, I just have a question. if, like, on the contract it says we should be paying this much, why are we paying this much? She goes, because it's my house and I can do what I want. And I was like, okay. Like, that's literally all I said. So we didn't sign the contract, but when that month came up, we scrounged all of our money. We ended up paying for that month in full, but we didn't have any money after that. And this is October, so we paid for the full month of October. And we kind of, like, we were like, all right, this is it. We need to leave. We need to get out. So we actually ended up moving into my grandma's house because that way we could have my cats, and she had an extra bedroom, and that way it's just somewhere for us to leave because my husband was supposed to join the military, so it's somewhere where we can stay until he leaves. So we're like, all right, we're moving there. I remember the exact date that we moved out, like, officially. And at this point, she still wasn't, she was doing her thing where she doesn't talk to us because we didn't sign the contract, and she was pissy about me the last month, not whatever I owed from November, or not November, the month before that. I'm tired. She was still pissy about that. So we move out, just me and Logan. We move out October 18th, 2016. I, like, have that date, like, planted in my head because we're like, okay, well, since we left, we need, like, the rest of the money from the month that we didn't stay there. She's like, no, that's my money. You're not getting that. And I was like, we're not living there though. And, like, we're not on a contract or anything like that. From the, like, the landlord doesn't know we were even living there. So she probably could have gotten in trouble without letting him know. I don't know, like, the legal things in that, but that's what I was hearing from people. But she's like, no, I don't owe you anything. This is my money since you were still living here in October. And I was like, we lived here for 2 weeks. So she owed us about I think it was $235 and some change from the month that, like, the other 2 weeks that we weren't living there. And that was, no, it was like 300 because it was like, it's something like that. And she refused to give us the rest of our money. She's like, nope, it's mine. You already paid in full. Can't give it back. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, and that kind of screwed us because now we're down $200 and whatever dollars. And the 18th was the day we actually, like, went back into her house, cleaned the bedroom, like, top to bottom. We told her we were going to vacuum, we were going to, like, steam clean the carpet, like the carpet shampooing thing. We were going to clean the walls and everything just to appease her. She's like, okay, that's fine. And then that day when we were there, we were vacuuming and everything, and I was like, I had, like, wipes to go ahead and wipe down the walls, and she's like, can I have the house key? And I was like, yeah, here you go. She's like, you guys can go now. And I was like, well, we're gonna finish cleaning the bedroom for you. And she's like, no, I got it. And we're like, we weren't gonna argue with her, so we were like, all right. Austin and Tyler still lived there for a little bit, and then they got tired of it too, and they ended up moving. Something I didn't mention though was her best friend. We're gonna call her Lindsay. She was also kind of crazy, but she was also a raging bitch. I'm sorry about cussing a lot in this video. It's just this topic sucked. I always got worked up. Hey, but I didn't cry this time, so that's progress. She would come over. Sorry, like, I'm backtracking. See, like, I like jump around when I'm telling stories. But she would come over all the time and hang out with everyone. But no one really liked her because she always threatened people. The amount of times she has threatened Logan is ridiculous. And I'm just like, that's not cool. And I guess after we moved out, she came over and she was trying to sleep with our buddies that were still living there. And I was like, you're like twice our age, and you're over here threatening my boyfriend, and now you're trying to seduce and get with the friends that are still there. It was just a mess. Like, I wish I could paint the picture better for you guys, because, like, it was so bad. It was kind of like one of the things where you had to be in that situation, or you had to be like our family or friend at the time, because we would vent about it to a lot of people, and they developed this hate for her. It was just really bad, and it was extremely toxic, and it ended up after a couple months, it eventually started messing with mine and Logan's relationship because of the tension, and it was a toxic environment, and we were fighting more, and it was just bad. It wasn't a good situation at all. I really wish I could like explain it better, but like I said, you had to have been there. You had to have been around or been there. And I'm sorry I couldn't explain it better, but that's the best I could do right now. Like I said, this is part 1. I'm leaving it open to where if I think of more things to kind of explain to you guys, I will do a part 2 as well and kind of post that. That one will obviously be shorter than this one. So with all of that being out there, ranted, opinionated, or whatever, let me know if you guys have any crazy roommate psycho stories. And if you have any videos on them, link them below, because I would love to watch them. For some reason, those videos entertain me, because I'm like, wow, I'm not the only one that had a crazy psycho person to live with. But that was pretty much everything. You guys know the drill. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. If you want to be notified whenever I post a video, hit the bell, since YouTube is being shady right now. And I will see you in the next video.